Some inventions don't simply improve human life. They redefine it. They redraw borders, reshape societies, and alter the balance of power across generations. For thousands of years, warfare was limited by human strength, metal, and muscle. Armies marched with swords, spears, bows, and shields. Castles were built thick and tall, symbols of authority that seemed eternal. Victory depended on numbers, endurance, and discipline. Then, quietly, almost accidentally, a new force entered human history. A force that would end the age of knights, shatter stone walls, and give rise to the modern world. This is the story of gunpowder. The origins of gunpowder take us back to ancient China, around the 9th century. At that time, Chinese scholars and alchemists were not searching for weapons. They were searching for something far more ambitious: immortality. Influenced by Taoist beliefs, many alchemists experimented with minerals and chemical mixtures, hoping to discover an elixir that could grant eternal life. In their experiments, they combined saltpeter, charcoal, and sulfur. The result was unexpected. Instead of eternal life, they created a substance that burned rapidly and exploded with immense force. Early Chinese texts even warned that this mixture could burn hands and destroy houses. At first, gunpowder was treated with caution and curiosity. It found its earliest uses not on the battlefield, but in celebrations. Fireworks became a powerful cultural symbol, used in religious ceremonies, festivals, and rituals meant to ward off evil spirits. Explosions of light and sound filled the night sky, long before they filled battlefields. But human history shows us a clear pattern. Any technology with power will eventually find its way into warfare. By the 10th and 11th centuries, the Chinese military began experimenting with gunpowder-based weapons. Early devices included fire lances, spears that shot flames and shrapnel, as well as primitive bombs and rockets. These weapons were crude, unpredictable, and dangerous even to their users, but they represented something entirely new. For the first time, chemical energy replaced muscle and metal. As trade expanded along the Silk Road, knowledge traveled with merchants, diplomats, and soldiers. Gunpowder technology moved westward, reaching the Islamic world between the 12th and 13th centuries. Scholars and engineers in the Middle East studied the substance carefully, improving its consistency and adapting it for more reliable military use. Islamic armies developed early cannons, explosive projectiles, and fortified defenses designed to withstand gunpowder attacks. Military treatises began to include detailed descriptions of chemical formulas, ignition systems, and battlefield tactics involving explosives. By the 13th century, gunpowder arrived in Europe, and it arrived in a continent defined by castles, knights, and feudal power. Europe was not prepared for what gunpowder would bring. At first, European weapons were crude and unreliable. Cannons were heavy, inaccurate, and often exploded. Early firearms were slow to reload and difficult to aim. Yet even in their imperfect form, they possessed one undeniable advantage: power. Stone walls that had stood for centuries could now be reduced to rubble. Armor that once symbolized invincibility became a liability. The battlefield was changing, and with it, the social order. Knighthood declined. Training from childhood to master the sword was no longer enough. A common soldier with a firearm could defeat a heavily armored noble. Power began to shift away from feudal lords and toward centralized states that could afford gunpowder weapons, supply chains, and professional armies. Gunpowder accelerated the rise of nation-states. Kings and governments invested heavily in artillery, firearms, and fortifications designed to resist them. Warfare became more expensive, more organized, and more destructive. Armies grew larger, battles became deadlier, and the consequences of defeat became more severe. Gunpowder did not only change how wars were fought, it changed why they were fought. Empires expanded faster and farther than ever before. European powers used gunpowder weapons to conquer territories across Africa, Asia, and the Americas. Indigenous populations, armed with traditional weapons, stood little chance against cannons and muskets. This imbalance of power shaped centuries of colonialism, exploitation, and global inequality. Yet gunpowder's influence was not limited to war alone. It transformed mining, construction, and engineering. Explosives allowed humans to dig deeper, build larger, and reshape the physical world. Mountains were carved, tunnels were opened, and infrastructure expanded at unprecedented speed. Gunpowder became both a tool of progress and a symbol of destruction. As centuries passed, technology evolved. Muskets became rifles, cannons became artillery. Gunpowder paved the way for modern explosives, industrial weapons, and eventually, the mechanized warfare of the 20th century. World wars, revolutions, and global conflicts all trace part of their lineage back to that original Chinese discovery. Yet even today, gunpowder lives a double life. It lights the sky in celebration during festivals and national holidays. Fireworks continue to inspire awe, wonder, and joy, just as they did centuries ago. At the same time, firearms and explosives remain central to global military power, conflict, and debate. Gunpowder forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth about human innovation. Technology itself is neutral. It has no morality. Its impact depends entirely on the hands that wield it and the intentions behind its use. What began as a search for immortality became a force that ended medieval warfare, reshaped global power, and defined the modern age. Gunpowder reminds us that progress always comes at a cost. In the end, gunpowder did not merely change the way wars were fought. It changed how history was written, in fire, smoke, and echoes that still resonate today. Now we want to hear from you. Which invention do you think changed the world the most? Drop your opinion in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with someone who loves history and innovation, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories about the greatest inventions of all time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.